This video is going to look at one of the less well-known features in Adaptable, which is pre-processing reports. Adaptable comes with a very powerful export functionality. Users can either export the shipped reports that Adaptable provides, or they can create custom reports, and they can go to a number of different destinations, and again custom destinations can be provided, and typically Adaptable takes care of everything. It creates a report, it evaluates any queries that are needed, and it sends it to the destination specified. But occasionally a user might want to intercept this process and make a few changes. And this is done through pre-processing, and there's really three main use cases, and we can see them all here. So the first is very simply, you might want to stop a particular report. You might want to say on a particular day, or for a particular user, or for whatever reason, even though the entitlements for that user allows the report to be run, at this moment in time you don't want it to happen. And the way you do that, where you do all of it, in fact, is through the same pre-process export function. It takes context about the reports, and you can simply decide whether you want to return true or false. So in this example here, we're not going to allow the user to run the current data report. We're going to send a system status warning message, and that's what we see here. So if I try to run this report, I get my warning message and the report doesn't run. A second use case is where you might want to change the report data. And there's a number of different things you can do as we list here. One thing you might want to do is format it differently. Now there is a whole other set of options that allow you to select when you export whether to use the cell's display format or the cell's underlying value. And that's a subject for another time. But what this allows you to do is to say, well, actually, I don't care what the format value is in the column. When I export it, I want to provide a bespoke one. Another thing you might want to do is actually change the data. You might want to say, before the report runs, we need to make various changes. We need to add some columns, remove some columns, change some cell values. And the third thing you can do is you might want to limit how many rows or which rows are sent. Now again, you probably will do the last one ideally in the report definition in the query that the report uses to evaluate, but there are use cases where you need to almost do a second set of filtering. And again, in fact, let's go show code. Let's go full screen on this and let's go show code. So here we have each of those in play. So the first thing we say is that when the report runs, I don't want to see anywhere where weak issue change, that's this issue change column here, is greater than 0. Sorry, I only want to see it where it's greater than 0. And now we've made two other changes. We say we want the language column to be uppercase, so that should become uppercase. And then we've said if the license is other, we want to export it with a different value as not known. So all these three things will come into play. Essentially what this function does is, in this case here, it's asynchronous and it's returning a new set of data. So let's now run this report. Excel is loading up, and when Excel loads up, there we are, we'll see that the language has become capitalized. In the license column, there we are, we have not known instead of other, and we are only seeing issue changes which are greater than 0. We no longer see the -1s. The third type of scenario where you might want to pre-process a report is perhaps the most interesting and the most widely used, and that's where you're using the server-side row model. And again, this is a really big topic for another time, but essentially AG Grid, which is what Adaptable extends, has two main row models. One is the client-side row model, where you load all the data up front and everything takes place on the client. And we strongly advise using this if you've got 150,000 rows or less, because with virtualization and modern memory techniques, that's all fine to take place on the client. But if you've got, many hundreds of thousands of rows and you want to run your querying and your filtering on the server, you might also want to export via the server. And this, of course, is a really good example of where you will pre-process, because essentially you can create the report definition on the client. The user can say, this is what I want to be in my report. But then when he runs the report, you can intercept it, you can run it on your server using whatever querying capability you have, and then you return the data back to Adaptable for it to send to the destination. And again, this is part of a much bigger server-side row model demo. But again, what we can see here, if we go show code, is essentially when we run the report, we run it on the server, we run this kind of query, we create the server-side response, which we then send back to Adaptable to run. So that if I run this custom report US Golden Athletes and I send it to a table, when I export, it's running it on our mock server, and then it's going to send the data back and it will display it. Here we are, as you can see, in a table. And in fact, we've even kind of shown you what the query it will run is. Or if we want to run, for instance, the all data report, and we want to send that to CSV, we can, again, it will send it out, and then when we open it, there we are, we'll see the data that's come back. So there we are, that's pre-processing reports. It allows you to intercept the report, to make it either small changes or to provide all the data or to stop the report running, whatever your particular use case is. It's not a kind of a feature you'll use all the time, but for those use cases where it's needed, it will, like many things in Adaptable, make a real difference and allow you to be more efficient. As always, thank you for watching. If you'd like to know more about Adaptable in general or about our exporting functionalities, please get in touch. We'll be delighted to provide you with a personalised one-to-one demo, or indeed give you a free no obligation trial license so you can try out Adaptable for yourself. Thank you for watching.